welcome everyone. It's great to see you all here. This is our first health and care systems SIG in a while. Hopefully you will find the session quite good, and we're hoping to reconnect everyone and have a few more regular events going on in the future. I've not seen if the first thing on our agenda was Sandra, the president of the OR Society, to give an introduction. I don't think I've seen if she's online yet or not, so possibly not. I will carry on and pass over to Daniel, who'll go through some slides around the problem context.
Okay, yeah, welcome from me as well. And yes, great to see many people here. And yeah, when Suchi and I, we kind of applied for the role to take over, the lead from Thierry Chausselet, who has led the SIG for several years, we were thinking, yeah, what do we want to contribute? Like, how do we want to run the SIG? And we were thinking about that, the putting things as like patient centric first, and so we then came up with a patient story, and this is something that I experienced working 2 days a week in the NHS myself, and on a planning problem at the moment, where people have like waiting a very long time just with a simple diagnosis, like here with a gallstone flare up actually on the pancreas. So Claire, 43, she's a mother of 2, and was diagnosed with gallstones, and she suffers recurring episodes, and she's on the waiting list. And just for that routine gallbladder removal, which would help her, relieving all the pain, etc. She is still in pain. All the painkillers wouldn't work anymore. So what she would decide then, actually taking her private healthcare insurance and paying that, top payment for getting that treatment actually. So that is the kind of the patient story, and what we want to do with operational research here, and Sanja, if she comes in, can talk about that as well. With the with operational research, we are aiming to help finding the link between the demand and the capacity. We have predictive modeling tools available in our whole toolbox of operational research methods, and we can identify cues here with predictive modeling. Demand prediction within the day or on a weekly basis, etc. But also capacity planning problems or clinical pathway learning, or simulating clinical pathways using our stakeholders in the hospitals or in GP practice or system-wide. Actually, we can test what-if scenarios, we can run or develop some decision support tools, and also ensure that people like in the valleys, for example, in Wales, don't have to wait longer than people in the cities, like in Cardiff, or like in the bigger cities like London, etc. So we want to have an equitable or a fair access across geographical and socioeconomic statuses, or stati, use the correct Latin plural, I think. Yeah, so that brings us to the next slide, I think. Our agenda today, we Suchi, I, and everyone else in the committee has the opportunity to give a little bit of an overview, like about their background and what they work on a little bit, or just say 1 or 2 words why what motivates them to be engaged in that special interest group. And then also I can talk a little bit about health systems, or flagship journal in the OR Society, where we publish some impactful work. And then what do we have on the agenda? We have obviously our presentation on probabilistic activity modeling, and followed by questions and answers. And at the end of this meeting today, we want to get a little bit of feedback from you, from everyone. joining the call today. What are your ideas how we, can run future events? Should they be face-to-face or should they be online? Do you want to do a volunteering role, or do you want to just take a backseat and listen to things? What themes should we focus on? Everything systems perspective, or maybe a specific thing in a GP practice, hospital, or a mental health service? Yeah, so things like that is what we want to learn a little bit from you. What would you like to, what do you want to get out from the special interest group? Yeah, and then later on, yeah, we want to close it. Yeah. Suchi, do you want to talk a little bit about yourself, or like, yeah.
So those of you who don't know me, my name is Suchi Collingwood. I'm super excited to be here, co-chairing the SIG with Daniel and stepping into this role. Hopefully we can kind of create a specialist interest group that everyone benefits in the way they need to. So the questions that Daniel just went through, it'd be really important to know what you're dealing with, what questions your organisation's worried about, as well as how frequently you'd want to meet. And so it'd be really great to get all of that feedback towards the end of the session. A bit more about me. I currently work for NHS England, and I'm the senior analytical lead for plan care in the South East region. So that covers anything from elective waiting lists to productivity and counselling diagnostics and supporting analysis and modelling in these areas. I've worked in Department of Health and Social Care and NHS England for the last 13.5 years, covering a whole range of areas, including social care, what's required demand-wise, and expenditure modelling for the future, dental contract reform, and what the incentives are when it comes to different things being prioritised in terms of prevention and not, all the way through to hospital planning, so UEC, bed modelling, and elective. So hopefully I can bring some experience that help coordinate activities that would be helpful to the whole membership. I'll pass back to Daniel so you can give a brief intro as well.
Yeah, my role is split actually for the last 10 years in Cardiff, 2 days a week in the NHS in Wales and 3 days in the math department in Cardiff. And yeah, the noise that you hear is from my kids maybe. They have a half term at the moment. But yeah, so I enjoy, like applying mathematical models in healthcare setting and then doing like some impactful work out of that, also with some things that we do in Indonesia. Currently, more overseas work with planning ambulance services. Yeah, so but I think, yeah, you can look up all the Google Scholar profile and stuff like that. So just to keep it short. Laura, do you want to go next? I don't want to talk too much about like stuff like, yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm Laura. I work in the maths department at Queen's University in Belfast, and I do a lot of work on simulation, especially in healthcare. I've just recently joined this special interest group, so I'm really excited to be involved in it and hopefully get more events going in the community and the OR Society with a healthcare focus. So I look forward to seeing you all.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether we have Thierry on the call. But thanks, Laura, for the intro. If Thierry's not around, maybe we move on to Lucy, if you want to just talk a little bit about your role and interests,
Sure.
etc.
Thanks, Daniel. Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Lucy and I'm an analytics manager at the strategy unit, and I think you're going to hear quite a bit more from the strategy unit today about one of the models that's been built, but I've got expertise in simulation and a background in simulation methodology and modelling, and I'm interested to be part of the healthcare SIG now, and I've only just joined because I've recently moved into a healthcare role as part of the strategy unit, which are an internal NHS consultancy. So just trying to make some good connections in this community and yeah, get involved where I can. Thanks very much.
Right, Honora, do you want to go next? Thank you, Lucy.
Hi. Oh, I'm very excited to be here at the restart of this SIG group. Yeah, it's my first time to be here as well. And I've retired from lecturing in operational research, but I'm still very interested in encouraging whatever use of modelling is made in healthcare. I was involved in many projects using different methodologies and in different parts of the NHS, and overseas as well. So, and I still think the more impact, the better we can see from OR and any other methods in the health service, the better. Thanks.
Thank you. Nora, I'm just looking at whether Christos is in our list. I don't think so.
I don't think Christos or Elizabeth are here today.
Okay. And I just had an email from Sanya about she seems to have the wrong link or something. I've just forwarded her the Teams link, or Karen, if you are happy to kind of say to Sanya, like the invite. Yeah, moving on. Yeah, I think we got our vision statement. Yeah, we want to create that inclusive or dynamic platform uniting academia and everyone working in health and care systems, but also industry. So just want to bring everyone together in this special interest group. And I think what I found interesting is with or I think useful is the OR Society has so many special interest groups. So just beyond that vision statement, I felt that we can also learn from other special interest groups, like in simulation modeling, that are more kind of theoretical focused. Can we borrow their approaches in our special interest group, or the recent advancements in discrete optimization? Is there something that we can use for making a difference? Yeah, so that brings us into the innovative application of OR. So when you read Informs journals or European Journal of Operational Research or our flagship journal in OR Society, JORS, that things are published, is there anything we can advance or use in practice to make then an impact for the patient that we were talking earlier on? How can we analyze the waiting lists? How can we reduce that to get more equitable access to care, and then drive meaningful improvements from that in the service delivery and outcomes? Yeah. Okay, so just wonder where we can, next slide then. Yeah, so I think the OR Society Special Interest Group, it is not the only interest group in the world looking at hard or soft OR applied in healthcare. There's the Association of Information Systems, AIS, that has a special interest group in health, and there's AFA in the UK. German OR Society has a special interest group in healthcare. They call it healthcare management, which maybe is a bit different to our vision of more the systems approach. And then there's HACORN, run by Martin Pitt and colleagues. Informs, the American Operational Research and Management Science Society, has a healthcare application society, like subsection. And then there's MedInfo, for example, and medical decision making, MDM, the operational research, the European Federation of OR Societies, or Euro, they have a subgroup, ORAS, Operational Research Applied to Health Services, that meets every year in a usually European country. And then there's other groups like POMS, JOM, Welsh Modeling Collaborative, and then Women in OR Network, WORON, etc. So there are lots of other interest groups or networks that people can have a look what's been doing, what is going on there. I think for us it's more having a OR Society part that connects people in the OR Society already, having the learning experience from other special interest groups, and that kind of translational work going on, and also yeah, the systems perspective is something that I think is important in our special interest group, among others. And we want to do some face-to-face events as well. So I think, yeah. And then I can just see like Sanya has just joined the meeting. Yeah, I think I was finished with that slide as anyhow. So maybe we could ask Sanya whether she I couldn't really see the message right.
Can you hear me, Daniel? Sorry.
Oh yes, cool. Yeah. Hi. Hello, Sanya. Nice.
Good
Thank
morning.
you for coming.
Teams
Amazing.
simply
Cool.
didn't listen at all this morning. I was trying endlessly to join the meeting.
Great, you're here. Yeah, if you, I don't know. I mean, I was in the society meeting in Bangor last year, and you had a really cool, talk or vision kind of about like healthcare in the OR society. So maybe you just want to say hi and welcome as a president of the OR society. I don't know if
Okay. Thank you very much. Put me when it suits you in your agenda, please, because okay. Is it okay to do that now?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much to Daniel and to Suki for inviting me to join today's SIG meeting. I have been carrying out development and application of operational research methods in a variety of fields, including manufacturing, university timetabling, employee timetabling. But to tell the truth, operational research in healthcare is really in my heart. So I'm very happy that I joined today your SIG meeting. I think it is the case in every field. We have a lot of successful stories of application of operational research. We publish papers, we collaborate with a variety of industry, including NHS. But I think there is still a lot of wide variety of opportunities to show what we can do with operational research. If we talk about healthcare, anecdotally, government invests in doctors to increase the number of doctors, and that is fine. But where is the strength of operational research is to increase, if I may use the word, productivity of NHS. I refer to NHS, but actually any healthcare provider with limited resources. That is the strength of operational research. And why also I chose healthcare? I think we have very strong community in healthcare. There are always a large number of sessions in healthcare stream in our national conference. That usually we can hear variety of different applications of operational research in healthcare. Then we have a journal, Health Systems, that is very successful. Also, we plan to organize one-day event in Birmingham on 12th of November, if you want to pencil that day in your calendar, where we will aim to bring together operational research academics, oral practitioners, maybe consultants, and especially decision makers from healthcare providers, let me refer them to NHS, to demonstrate what operation research can do, to show successful stories. So it should serve as a demonstration of what ORAR can do. It will have special format. It will be interactive in the sense that it will we will have 6 workshops that are very relevant to delivery of health care, efficient and effective delivery of health care. But it will be around tables. So we plan to have interactive sessions with a number of talks, but the focus will be on interaction with healthcare providers to demonstrate what we can do, but also to identify where we can use operational research to improve the productivity. I'll use that manufacturing term, productivity in NHS. So once again, the event will take place on 12th of November. You will see soon more information on the website of the Oral Society, and the event will take place at Aston University Business School. So that's all from me, but I'm very open to receive any question or any comment, feedback.
Thank you very much, Sanja, for the intro. Maybe if anyone has a question, I've put the link into not the link, but the description into the meeting chat. So just mark the diary. More information coming soon. And if there are no questions or no further questions, we might then hand over to Jake from the strategy unit for his talk, and I can later on talk a little bit about health systems, the journal where you can publish if you like, because yeah, that is a great opportunity to share all the great work you're doing, whether it's in academia or not in academia. So we are quite inclusive in that journal as well. As long as it has a systems perspective or interconnectedness in healthcare, that is something that we are looking for. And yeah, we are a team of 4 co-editors in chief, and look after the operational research and information systems, information technology side in healthcare. Good. So, Jake, would you like to come forward and then share your slides?
I can, yes. Can people see my slides now?
Amazing. Yeah, I think you probably have to press F5 or so to do presenter mode.
Yeah, so there we go.
Okay, cool. Amazing. Cool. I can see that. Brilliant.
Excellent. I can't see you, so I won't be able to see hands or anything. So if you do want to raise a point, please do so. But hopefully there'll be time at the end for questions. So thanks for inviting me along this morning. My name is Jake Parsons. I'm an analytics manager at the strategy unit. So a couple of years ago, the strategy unit were asked to by the New Hospitals programme to help them build an activity or demand model to support the New Hospitals programme. So the central question that they asked us was they wanted to know how much and what types of activity might a hospital need to accommodate in the future. So that's the core question that we're attempting to answer. So before we started our model, we did a review of the existing models that were out there. And what we found was there were lots of models with lots of similarities, but also some quite significant differences that meant comparing the models was really difficult. So we didn't know whether the differences were to do with different baselines, methodological differences, differences in assumptions. We found that there was lots of repetition and duplication out there in the models that people were building, but that methodological progress was typically slow, as people tended to build a new model when they started, and they tended to go back to the beginning rather than iterating on existing best practice. We found that there was no base to build on, and we wanted to build something that could be developed and improved over time. We also found some common issues with the models that were out there. So uncertainty is inherent in modelling of this type, but most models tended to ignore this and just provided a single point estimate that typically ignores all of that uncertainty. Some do some sensitivity analysis, but that doesn't give you much of an indication of how likely those alternative scenarios might be. We found that the models had high levels of aggregation, which makes it difficult to cut the outputs in useful ways for planning purposes. And we found that many of the models had poor coverage of some of the factors that we think are important. We also found systematic bias in assumptions. For example, activity avoidance assumptions tended to be overly optimistic, whereas some of the efficiency gains were often relatively modest. And often there appears to be a lack of ownership of those assumptions, with a lack of clarity around who set or owns those assumptions and on what basis they were set. And finally, models were sometimes based on what was affordable rather than a more pure estimate of what was likely to occur in terms of demand. So I'm going to show you our conceptual model. So this is how we think about the model. So we start with data about activity in a baseline year, and that activity has no or very minimal aggregation, and we use Hare's inpatients, outpatients, and A&E data sets for that purpose. And we then subject that to a series of transformations based on assumptions about how we think activity will change over the modelling horizon. So the first of those transformations relates to demand supply imbalances. So this is things like adjusting to account for growth in the waiting list, which implies unmet demands, or adjusting for patients who might have to travel further, or where patients are paying privately for treatment because they can't get it from the NHS. The next set in our model were around need supply imbalances. So this is where there's potential for patients to benefit, but the services isn't currently provided, often for a variety of reasons. The third key factor is the impact of demographic changes. So that accounts for the impact of changes in the population size, its structure, and also the health status of the population. So the fact that as time goes on, the health of the nation typically becomes healthier. So if you think about an 80-year-old today, is probably fitter and healthier, thus requiring less healthcare than an 80-year-old was, say, maybe 20 years ago. The fourth factor is around non-demographic factors. So these are related to things like introduction of new interventions, changes in clinical standards, or changes in patient expectations. So there's a whole range of things that sit under non-demographic change. And the fifth factor is around activity mitigation. So obviously, over the years, there's been numerous attempts to reduce the level of activity that's required in a hospital, and our model accounts for this through identifying cohorts of activity that might be mitigatable, either through avoidance, through a variety of mechanisms, or through efficiency improvements, so length of stay reductions, typically. The result of that is, sorry, clicking through too fast there. So the result is that we get an output of future activity at the same level of granularity as the baseline, which means it can be cut in any way that's useful for planning purposes, so specialty, age, length of stay, those sorts of things. So there are two distinct challenges for us in building this model. The first is how to model those changes. So that's something that specifically our data science team has been working on. So how to take the assumptions about how activity might change and how to model that properly and accurately. The second factor falls to model users, and that's how much change to model. And that's inherently difficult. Largely due to uncertainty. We don't expect uncertainty. We recognise that there's a great deal of uncertainty in how the future might unfold. And the tool that we've developed that I'm going to go on to demonstrate supports users to set some probabilistic modelling assumptions that explicitly reflect the uncertainty in those assumptions. And that uncertainty is subsequently reflected in the outputs, which illustrate the range of future activity that might be expected given the uncertainty within the assumptions that are incorporated into the model. So I'm just going to show you, give you a very brief demo of the inputs app that we give to users that allows them to input their assumptions for all of the main factors. So bear with me while I just get the other screen. Okay, can people see that? So we developed this tool that we give to trusts who are going through the New Hospitals programme, and it allows them to enter a range of assumptions. So on the left-hand side, you can see all of the key factors that are in our model. So population growth, health status adjustment. There's a factor that allows them to account for expectations about repatriation or expatriation of activity. There's a non-demographic growth, but the bit I'm going to just focus on here, rather than give a full demonstration, because I know we don't have an awful lot of time, is around the activity mitigation. So one of the key factors in the model is around making assumptions about how much of the activity that takes place in hospital might be mitigated in some way by a chosen model horizon. So this might be through initiatives or interventions aimed at reducing hospital activity, either through avoidance or redirection or alternative treatments. So just to give you an idea of the sorts of things we're talking about here, this first one relates to falls-related admissions. So what our model does is it identifies all people in the baseline year who are admitted to hospital for a fall. Now, there are obviously a range of interventions that trusts and also ICBs and community services are working on, aimed at trying to reduce the likelihood of older people falling and ending up in hospital. So this particular mitigator or cohort of mitigatable activity allows schemes to set an assumption about how effective they might be by the model horizon. So how much of this activity do they think they might be able to avoid by the model horizon? And we give the schemes a range of supportive information to help make those assumptions. So for instance, this first chart just shows trends in admissions for falls over the past 5 or so years. It shows how this trust compares to other trusts in terms of admission rates for falls, and it provides some more detail about the sorts of diagnoses those patients have and the age and gender breakdown of those patients. And what we ask trusts to do when they're setting these assumptions is not to provide a point estimate. So we don't ask them for 10% or 5%. What we ask them for is their 80% confidence intervals. So if they felt that they were 80% sure that by the model horizon they could reduce activity by somewhere between 20 and 30%, they would set the sliders to reflect that. So you can move the sliders to say, okay, we think we'll achieve either somewhere between a 20 to 30% reduction, and that's our 80% confidence interval. So they're 80% sure that that's what they'll be able to achieve by the model horizon, thus incorporating the uncertainty in their assumptions. And for some assumptions they might be very sure, so set quite narrow uncertainty ranges, but some they could be very unsure because they don't know what they're going to achieve, what interventions might be effective, those sorts of things, in which case they might set something wider than that. And what we tell our schemes when they're doing this, because obviously they're typically not statisticians, is we ask them to think about what they think would be highly likely. So outside of that 80% confidence interval, we're essentially saying that in this case they think it highly unlikely that they'll achieve more than a 30% reduction, but also highly unlikely that they'll achieve less than 20%. So that's the kind of language we use to help them think about those uncertainty ranges, those confidence intervals. Just to kind of give you a very brief flavour of the sorts of cohorts we've got in here. So we have some specific ones around particular interventions. We have some mitigators around alcohol-related admissions, smoking-related admissions, end-of-life care admissions, admissions for medically unexplained symptoms, obesity-related admissions, mental health-related admissions. So all cohorts of activity that there is evidence that suggests that there are effective interventions that can either avoid or redirect these activities out of an acute hospital. So that's what trusts go through as part of the new hospital modelling programme. So they'll sit down and they'll set assumptions for all or some of the factors within this tool. And there are 92 cohorts of potentially mitigatable activity currently in our model, but we hope to increase and refine those over time. So I'm going to stop sharing that and just go back to the slides again. So what does the model do with those assumptions once the trust has set them? Well, the lines on this chart represent the trust assumption. So this first line here might be their assumption about how much of the falls related activity they might be able to avoid. The second one might be their assumptions about how much the alcohol related admissions they might be able to avoid, and so on and so forth. And what we do is we convert those into a distribution, and then we randomly select from that distribution. So in the first case, it might, if we suggested an assumption range of 20 to 30%, it might randomly select 25% or 23%. And we do that for each of the assumptions in the model. Those are then fed into the model, and that creates one potential model future outputs based on randomly selecting from those uncertainty distributions. But we don't just do it once. We do it hundreds of times. So typically we'll model this 256 times. Each time randomly selecting a different value from those uncertainty ranges. So what we end up with is a distribution of futures, which allows us to see the likelihood of the range of activity that we might see in the future. So I'm going to stop sharing then and go to our outputs app so we can share with you what that looks like in the results. Okay. So once you've input all your assumptions, you press run and the model runs, and it takes about 10 minutes or so to run. And then you have access to a different app which provides the details of the outputs. So I'm just going to show you some of the key charts in here. So this first chart just shows the impact of all the factors and all of the assumptions that are input into the model. So this is showing overall bed days. So we have a baseline line at the top, which shows, in this case, about 1.3 million bed days in the hospital in the baseline year. And it shows the impact of the demographic factor. So this is what would be added on over the modelling horizon due to changes in the population size and structure. Then we have the impact of the non-demographic factor. There's some other smaller factors like a birth adjustment I won't go into now. And then these black bars just show the impact of the assumptions around assumptions about how much activity they might be able to mitigate in future. So in this case, they've set some assumptions around improvements in length of stay, efficiencies, which is taking out maybe 100,000 bed days, and then a greater amount of activity avoided through their assumptions about how much activity they might be able to avoid from those cohorts of avoidable activity, which again takes out maybe 150,000. And then you end up with the final estimate of activity at the model horizon, which in this case I think was down to 2040, 41. Now, obviously, this is just a single output. And what this is our principal projection. And the principal projection is the average of all of the 256 model runs that were produced by the model. And we can, we'll go on to look at what that looks like in terms of the uncertainty later. But this app allows you to explore the activity that's estimated to be required at the horizon in varying levels of detail. So you can look at it by pod or length of stay, and you can look at it by specialty or age group. You can look at admissions rather than bed days. And again, you can drill down to look at particular pods. And a similar set for outpatients and A&E. In terms of uncertainty, we also produce these charts. So this first scatter chart, just shows each of the individual model runs that randomly selected from our uncertainty ranges. So you can see in this case, the 256 model runs go from somewhere about 1.5 million bed days down to 1.3 million bed days, which gives you an idea of the likely range of potential future activity that might need to be accommodated in that hospital. And we also produce an S chart, which also shows the 10th and 90th percentiles. So again, this is saying that we can not be 80% sure that in future, by the model horizon, the new hospital will need to accommodate somewhere between 1.37 million bed days and 1.448 million bed days. And what that allows schemes to do is understand that uncertainty, recognise it, know the likelihood of whether that's of those different levels of activity coming to pass, and also allows them to build in the flexibility in their plans that allows them to be sure that they can accommodate that. History is littered with new hospital builds that have been built that when they open are too small, and some of that is due to the fact they haven't considered the uncertainty.
好似咁樣佢哋雖然睇係一個 web page但係佢可以 input 嗰啲 input 個 user 佢 input，then 佢有。
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Would you mind repeating the question? Perhaps it wasn't a question. I'll carry on. So yes, so it makes it very clear that trusts need to have plans that allow them to be sure that they can accommodate the likely different levels of future activity, whether that's building into contingency plans that can accommodate the higher levels of activity, or vice versa, or it might be having contingency plans around achieving higher levels of mitigation should over time it be seen that they aren't going to achieve the reductions in activity that are required within the new hospital. So I'm going to pause there and ask for any questions or comments about what I've just described.
Jake, I find it really exciting. I just yeah, Suchi, you have a question probably, otherwise you wouldn't probably raise your hand, but yeah, I have a question as well, but maybe Suchi, go first.
Thanks, Daniel. So really comprehensive modelling and really great to see all the variation and stuff. So, but the waterfall still kind of concentrates on a single point. So I was just wondering how the conversations on the output side actually go, and what they take away from the variation you've obviously shown, because there's quite a lot of variation and different scenarios that could happen. That's one question at the moment.
Yeah, so it's a good question, because it's an aspect of the modelling that's quite hard to get people to understand and recognise the implications of. So particularly when you're building a hospital, you have to settle on a number at the end, and there is a danger that they will focus on that principal projection, which in essence is an average of all of the models. So it's not what we expect the hospital the demands to be. It's just the midpoint of what we expect demand to be. So what we encourage is that whilst obviously the main focus and the discussions once the modelling is done is around that principal projection, we do encourage them to consider what the range of likely future activity, and part of their planning is to set out how they might be able to accommodate that future activity if it's at the higher levels that we've seen in our distribution range, and by doing so build in the sort of the flexibility plans that are explicit, that set out how they would accommodate that activity. But you're right, it's people are still always drawn to just that single number because it's just easier to comprehend.
And if I may, just to like follow-up questions, like, so this is all about activity. Do you do much about translating to workforce requirements and how much it actually costs going forwards, or is that done kind of later on in the process?
There are separate work streams looking at workforce. One of the things that we're also working on is the main thing is the capacity conversion. So what does that level of activity mean in terms of beds or theatres or different types of procedure rooms, those sorts of things. At the moment, it's down to individual schemes to do that translation into schedules of accommodation, but we are working to build that into the model so that it not only churns out activity numbers, but also capacity estimates as well.
Thank you.
Stephen, did you have a question?
Thank you. Thanks, Jake, for that presentation. When you were talking about the way that you ask the users to set the range of the different parameters and think about what will be very unlikely and not very likely settlement, reminded me a bit of approach we used to take sometimes when calibrating discrete event simulations, where rather than getting drawn into different shapes of probability distributions and things, we'd say kind of get that upper and lower limit, but we'd also ask for a kind of a likely number, and then we'd use a triangular distribution with the upper and lower limit and the peak at the most likely. I wasn't sure from your description if you had a distribution within that upper and lower limit, or whether you assumed a uniform probability across the upper and lower limit when things have been set. And if the latter, does that mean that the dispersion in your final estimate is perhaps a little bit high?
Yes, I think you're right. It is something we have considered, and I think we'd like to build in kind of triangular distributions in future, because there are situations where you're right that someone might have a range, but actually what as you say, the most likely doesn't sit in the middle of that range, and it is something that we've considered. What we do say to trusts is to think about what their likely view is and to try to incorporate that into their uncertainty ranges. So it's not ideal, but I think that's something we'd certainly look to build in future.
Thank you.
Nora.
Hi. Yeah, thanks. Really interesting to see you putting it in just down on paper and drawing it out. I'd like to know what feedback you're getting from the trusts and how they're using it, and whether it's how much it's actually impacting them.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting very good feedback from the trusts. I mean, it's a very new thing for them. Typically, when this modelling has historically been done, that they've commissioned external consultants to come along and do this sort of work, whereas we're requiring quite intense involvement of trusts, and including a range of people who work in the trust to set the assumptions. So they're quite close to modelling and the assumptions that build it. So they like that aspect of it. It's fairly intuitive that the information we give them allows them to set plausible assumptions, and gives them what they need. So people generally like it. I mean, it's not perfect. We've always seen this as an iterative process that we'll be developing probably for many years to come, ideally, improving how it's used and the outputs and so forth. But I think generally people like it. They see the value of it. They see that it's better than perhaps what's been done in the past for some of the reasons I set out at the beginning. And also, it saves an awful lot of time and money, because previously, as I say, there are hundreds of different versions from different companies doing this stuff. Whereas now it's a single model that everyone can use, everyone can have access to, and it's consistent. So you can compare across schemes, which is another added benefit. So one of the things that happens when within the new hospitals program is, once the model's been set, that the NHB executive will look at how the assumptions one trust is set with the assumptions other trusts have set. So that there's that challenge around, are they being ambitious enough? Have they been too optimistic? Those sorts of things. So you get much better inputs into the model. It's also built on spell level data, so it's highly granular. So you can get out some very detailed output to the model, which again people like, which typically these models are done at a fairly high level of aggregation, which precludes that more granular analysis that we can do.
Brilliant, thanks. Yeah, it's better than a dangerous spreadsheet, which could,
yes.
Yeah, yeah, brilliant, thanks.
I just wonder, another question, if I may come in, about like users, like who would, is the planners who use the tool, or the analysts, or operational researcher, or like how do people get access so that the maybe, how to say it, like the right people want to tell the right story and not the I just wonder who is using it at the end, in terms of the user space.
So at the moment, the model was built for the new hospice program, so it's primarily been used for that, for the trust going through that process. However, we do have quite ambitious plans for the model. We're hoping that it will ultimately become a central NHS planning tool that can be rolled out across the whole of the NHS.
Yeah.
Allowing hospitals to use it on their annual planning cycles, for instance. And also we're building versions of the model that can be used at different geographical levels. So rather than being specifically trust-based, you could run the model at an ICB level or a region level, and again you could use it, that would help for different use cases, so around kind of more area-based planning about what's required across the entire area and where you might want to put some of that infrastructure. So a whole range of uses that we see this could help.
And is there, and would there be someone, like a planner, or who would be then approach whom to get access to, like, a username or password? Or I mean, if I probably couldn't use it because I'm at NHS Wales with my NHS Wales login, or would that be also the idea to roll it out to NHS Wales to have execs or planners or operational researchers to access it working in the service? Or I just wonder.
We certainly wouldn't have any objection to rolling out into Wales or Scotland or Northern Ireland, for instance. We don't, unfortunately, at the moment have access to the data sets required to do that. But of course, there shouldn't be any reason why that shouldn't be a future development.
It would be useful. Yeah, true. Yeah.
And in terms of accessing it, I think it's accessible by anyone with the right logins. I think at the moment we're probably slightly limited in terms of infrastructure for the numbers of users, but as our plans are to have a national rollout, that will be something that we'll have to address at some point to make sure that it can run with that scale of access requirements and all.
Right, amazing, cool. Yeah, were there any other questions from the audience? Just wonder. Not, then we could just maybe then, thank the speaker, Jake. I just have my clapping icon here. Here, the applause thing. Thanks you for coming. For coming to this meeting and sharing. Very interesting and amazing work. Yeah, great, cool. Good. Yeah, I think for the last part of this SIG meeting, we have a little bit of a discussion among among everyone who's attending. The committee, like Honora and Suchi, myself, Laura, Lucy, and everyone, we were thinking about like open the floor about how we would like to be engaged in this special interest group. What is expectation from it? how can you engage with it? Which themes should we focus on? Do you want to know more about, for example, yeah, a specific methodology maybe where we could bring someone from a different SIG, or someone who works on a particular methodology that you would like to learn more, or a particular application area where you would like to learn more, or particular industry, like industry partner. Is there, if we want to run a SIG event face to face, where would be the preferred location? Is that Birmingham, like the healthcare forum in 12th November? Is that good for everyone? Probably there's a reason why it is in Birmingham, the healthcare forum, like later this year. But yeah, just a couple of thoughts actually, and I'm gonna pop the link to the Padlet into the chat, and I just need to go to my own PowerPoint, copy that out and plug it in here. And I hope it works. And then we can have a look. And I can share my Padlet thingy as things coming. So I've just added here my own comment here. What did I have? I would like to learn more about, has anyone used linear programming approaches? Is that yeah, today we heard a Monte Carlo simulation, but are people working on the classical linear programs used in practice? We use that actually a lot in Wales with our in Bevan Health Board. Just recently, we were looking into chemotherapy treatment, chair to nurse assignment, or chair to chemo and non-chemo therapies in hematology. So that is something I could talk like for ages now, but it's not about our projects that we run. It's about projects that are in other patches in the UK NHS. But yeah, this is not only on, as I say, methodologies, but also, you know, what's in for you. What are your expectations of the special interest group? And if you just, I hope the link works. I can see there are a couple of dots here moving, so that means maybe that people are just filling in their you know, Padlet thingy, and yeah, here's how you could just plug in your needs or expectations from the SIG. And there's a hand up from Rachel, I can see. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, I can see some people can access, but I can't actually access the chat, so I can't access the link. So I don't want you to think that I'm ignoring you, Daniel. I just can't access it. Hi, Suki.
Yeah. Why is that? Let me have a look.
I think people just seem to have different access. Right? I've experienced this before. People seem to have different access rights to Teams depending on how things set up.
So the link works for NHS England. That's what we did the test on the Padlet. But yeah, but you can't access the chat to this Teams call either.
No, I couldn't put thumbs up or comments in the chat. So just to let you know, I think some people can, some people can't. Is what's happening. But
there might be a QR code feature, which I had used some time ago. No, I think that's not the right one.
It generally just looked like Padlet would block for me, Daniel. So I don't know if a QR code would necessarily help, but
Okay.
I'll try and write something in the chat instead.
Okay. Oh, location idea Cardiff. Selfish choice. Okay, I can see it. Interesting, Megan. Yeah, I think in Cardiff, we have a space which is called, we were running a digital health event a couple of weeks ago in Cardiff. That, I mean, I could put that on the list if people want to go to Cardiff. Space is called Spark or Spark. It's a great building. You can run kind of poster sessions if that is something that you would like to kind of share work or also maybe PhD students or MSc students work that you collaborate with, or your you know, the work you know, that you're doing. So how does Spark look like? And Cardiff. Yeah, this is our building. It's a quite new building, and yeah, it's really nice. But yeah, I can take a note. What else do we have? Okay, Christina Saville has something, health workforce research. So yeah, I think we can run even a session maybe in a potentially in a face-to-face around workforce planning, and I think the November event in our healthcare forum will also address some of these. Lucy, maybe you remember in the workshops that Sanja you know, were kind of pulling together from every one of us. Yeah, so workforce planning. Is that also on like workforce planning in terms of the strategic, or you know, how many people would you need, or is it also like shift scheduling or staff to task assignment or staff to clinic assignment, or like we did in Wales, the hematology staff to chemo or non-chemo patients, you know, looking after a set of patients who can be overseen, and then if you have more patients, then you would run unsafe service, so you have to make sure that the right staff is there. So is that something, Christina, you're looking at, like all different levels, like strategic, tactical, operational, or was it only one particular? I don't know. But yeah, workforce planning and an exchange in a in the forum. Okay. Or in our SIG. Stock and flow model. Okay, Megan, I take a note on that. Is that so what is that? Currently creating a stock and flow model for intermediate care and its impact on hospital admissions. Just the technical side of things, more maybe. And Megan, do you use a particular tool? Like what did we use some time ago? AnyLogic, is that something, or is that more the other methodology or
At the
tools?
moment, we're doing it pretty basically. We're starting the model in Excel because we're working across DHSC and NHS England,
Yeah.
and trying to get any software through DHSC is like pulling teeth. So we're starting it in Excel with the idea to move it to RStudio to make it sort of easier to manage, but unfortunately nothing fancy software wise. I did wonder about whether trying to get Simulate would be worth it, as that's something that I used at uni.
Okay.
But we've sort of, it's a short term, well, it's a short deadline, so we don't have time to go through the whole process, and then trying to get my team sort of trained on it. So it's more Excel and R focused currently.
Okay. Yeah, Lucy, I was gonna say you're unmuting yourself.
like-
Maybe you want to come in. Probably you have like much more expertise in stock and flow models.
I was just going to say I'd be happy to chat to you, Megan, about some like potential areas to get you started on that. But Sally in my team is an expert on system dynamics, stock and flow stuff. So if you drop me an email, I'll put my email in the chat. Can maybe have a chat about it.
Amazing.
That would
Yeah.
be great.
Okay.
Thanks, Lucy.
Great.
Yeah, Stephen's comment is, I think, really spot on with the in-person event. I know as well with our in our NHS in Wales, they had a freeze in terms of where people can go, and that's where, for example, Wales Modeling Collaborative ran things only online then. So yeah, I understand even from that point of view that meetings should be online. Should I take a note? Or maybe hybrid could be an option. We have run hybrid models as well in the Spark building previously. So then people can be. I think sometimes it's useful to have the hybrid option.
Generally, the only thing I say about hybrid is I think you've got to run really well. Otherwise, there's a tendency for the people online to be watching a meeting, or worst case, watching the back of somebody's head talking. Depending on so if you're going to do hybrid, you've got to be quite slick at it and have somebody who's making sure that questions that are in the chat are picked up equally to questions in the room and that kind of thing. I think either in person or online tends to work better than hybrid. But if you're experts at it, then fantastic.
Yeah, I noticed as well. If it's well managed, a hybrid event with giving space for people who are online, to moderate that is really good. To be inclusive in that sense is really crucial, and having allowing everyone to have their say. Julia, you would like to know more about mathematical optimization projects in acute settings. Which acute settings are these? Okay, sorry.
So basically, I'm talking about anything about admissions, about spells, about episodes, about outpatient settings. So like everything we have in acute hospitals.
Okay. And mathematical optimization in terms of like discrete optimization, or could it be also stochastic optimization paired with simulation modeling, maybe?
Actually, anything.
Okay.
Yeah, so anything we can use to improve maybe our booking processes, maybe how we allocate patients to doctors. So any examples would be great.
Okay. I take a note. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Helen is asking about real-world implementation of models, lessons and challenges learned. I think we could have that as well in a meeting, or I mean, I can talk about our impact case studies, for example, in Cardiff, and others probably have that as well. So in the university sector, if you run or create a mathematical model, for example, use it successfully in the healthcare setting, for example, then you can share that and you kind of recognized for that in an impact case study, it is called. So that contributes to the research excellence framework in uni. So which is something I can probably talk about and bring people in as well. Talking about model implementation. Okay. I'm conscious of time. We only have 3 minutes left. But I pull these together and we have even more down there. From Suchi, yeah.
So I've picked up the ones in the chat as well from Lucy and Tushar.
Amazing. Great. Good. So I think I absolutely don't want to overrun, which is why I may even say here just some final words, because I think we only booked this room until past. Yeah, I think I'm really excited to co-run a special interest group in health and care systems. Yeah, thanks for the amazing team around Suchi Yu and everyone else, like Lucy, Laura, Honora, and everyone who's not there as well, like Thierry. Thank you. Thierry's not here, but thanks a million for running the SIG events like in the last years. Yeah. Suchi, do you want to say some final words?
I was typing mine. Thank you very much, Jake, for your presentation, and Daniel for
Absolutely, yeah.
running most of this, and also for everyone's
Good.
contributions. If you do have other ideas around what you want from the SIG, do get in touch with Daniel and myself so we can make sure that we're taking things forwards that you want and the SIG's delivering to your requirements. That's key. Thank you very much.
Okay. That brings back 1 minute of your life. Okay,
Bye.
cool. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. Are we the last?
You're still recording. I might stop recording if I can.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
No, I can't stop recording. Oh,
Oh, okay.
I think that went okay. Like it'll be good to formulate some of these ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. So I think yeah, Honor is still there. I'm not sure whether Honor, can you hear us? Yeah, maybe, yeah, maybe not. But yes, I think all good. And then
should we catch up? Like well, we should put in another committee meeting at some point, and then
yes, that would be good. Yeah. Okay, let's do that. Let's schedule another committee meeting maybe after the summer break.
Yeah, definitely.
Mid-September, end of September time or so. Yeah. Or maybe October even. Yeah. Cool. Let's do that.
We do need to pick. Shall I just email Sandra about the question more generally?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we can pick that up by email, and then if she does want to meet, that would be great. But
yeah, that would be great. Cool. Awesome. Cool. Have a good weekend then. Yeah.
Easy. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.